as members of that church with this debt unsatisfied. We don't use pennies anymore, but I'm going to use the term, will every penny drop into the collection plate be counted in part as a debt to the government? A government that claims to be compassionate? Is that what this church must be asked to do? I'm not being patronizing at all. I am exposing this government's relationship with the church in this country and the churches in this country. And I'm going to say it again, above the whispers. Why could not the church in St. John have been given these lands of such little financial value? Is it too good for them? Is it too good for them, government? That's the question. Where is the morality in this transaction? Why must the church be tied to the government commercially and financially? Why? What is the benefit to government? Where's the virtue in this transaction? Why? Is there an explanation? Or does this government believe that certain elements in this country, and I say elements, are entitled to protective treatment, to generosity, and to use a Bajan term, to freeness, and that the church must remain bound to this government in a commercial transaction which does injury to the concept of tithing? So that when a little old gentleman does his tithing now on Sundays, he must consider that part of his tithe is going to the government by demand, by way of deed, by way of legal instrument. Or if he tithes, he may have to put in a little extra for the government. What really is going on here? What is so compelling about this transaction that you force a church to pay a government money? A government which is so wasteful otherwise with money. This government wastes a lot of money. Why must these good and humble folk of St. John be asked to enter into this commercial and financial relationship with the government, and let not one of them get up and say that it is a small amount? It is not the amount that matters. What matters is that the arrangement exists at all. Why could not have some conveyance been drawn and handed to the church? Why not? Why not? But somewhere subconsciously within the mind of this government is this inclination to treat certain people one way and treat another set another way. So that when I come in here and speak of the Medes and the Persians, I know what I'm speaking about. Your Honor, the evidence is there, and they can get angry if they want, but the evidence is there. Get angry with the evidence. Get angry with yourselves. But the evidence is there, and I am going to highlight it for the sake of the people in this country. And I ask the people of this country to walk away from what this government has done this afternoon and to consider two parties of relevance. And I'm going to call the name now of Frexham Bank and the Wesleyan Holiness Church, formerly the Pilgrim Holiness Church, and to consider this government's treatment of those two entities, and to tell the people of Barbados whether the government's treatment of those two entities is equal under the rule of law. One of the main precepts within the rule of law is that all persons are equal before the law and therefore are entitled to equal treatment before the law. Where is the equal treatment today? Or will we agree to be embarrassed? Will we agree to be in a parliament that will be embarrassed? And permit repetition now, sir. What is so compelling about this transaction that requires it to be characterized by the exchange of monies? And whatever is the amount, sir, it is too much. It is too much. It is too much of a burden to put on this church, whether by way of conveyance or lease. I say it ought to have been a deed of gift. Or, as we lawyers sometimes opt to do, a voluntary conveyance. Voluntary conveyance. But the Afrexim Bank got a deed of gift. The Afrexim Bank got a deed of gift. Where is this government today in relation to a small parcel of land in rural Barbados for a church that has done no sin to the people of this country? All they have done, honorable member for St. Thomas, you're a Christian. All they have done through you, sir, is good for the people of this country, for the people of that rural part of this country. Today, this parliament comes here and drags them into a commercial, financial relationship. And how long shall it last? Some of those who tithe in that church next Sunday may die, and the commercial nature of this transaction will survive them. And there are children unborn who will become members of that church, and they will have to contribute to the collection plate. And the collection plates normally are destined to help not a rich government, but to help the poor. The voices that you hear, sir, we have touched their conscience. And those are the voices of repentance. Those are the voices of repentance. I've touched them, sir. And it is not me, it is the truth that is touching them. Because they have to walk through that door this afternoon and tell the people of Barbados why they gave 5 hectares of land to a Frexham Bank and asking a poor little church in St. John to visit the treasury every month to pay them pennies. I will hear you, sir.
Continue, sir.
Thank you very much. I thought you were about to quiet them down. But the truth has done that. And the honorable member for St. George South invites me to visit some church with him on Sunday. I know it can't be. After he has done what he's done today, it clearly will not be any Wesleyan church. And I suspect that he will not be visiting Ellerton for a while. Not after he has done what he's done today, but as I said before, the voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau operate within different bodies. And so, Your Honor, I must oppose this. And I don't. No. I oppose any relationship between a church and a government in which the church is being asked to pay money to a government of whatever amount. While the African Bank has not been asked to pay a cent. I know they're troubled. Their spirits are troubled. I know it. I can feel it. You hear the honorable member for St. Thomas, she wants me to stop talking because I am piercing away at her conscience. She is one of the few Christians in here, and she is mightily troubled at this point in time. She is mightily troubled, and her conscience is speaking through me. Because she keeps interrupting me, she's asking me to stop this pain that you are imposing on me, Honorable Member for Christchurch South. What I'm saying pains her. Yes, repetition, I want to pain you. I am doing this so that you will be in pain, because I know, Honorable Member for St. Thomas, through you, sir, that you cannot be in agreement with this. I know you are a Christian, and I know that you believe that the church should not have been subjected to this. What is this government's explanation today for subjecting the church to this? Can you hear her, sir?
Yeah.
Let her speak.
But
Let her speak.
the document here says that there was an agreement between the church and the government, sir.
Yes, and government is a party.
So if the
Government is a
church
powerful
agreed,
party.
if the church had a choice.
Well, let us discuss some law then. In every relationship, contractual relationship, you're speaking about agreement. One party has greater power than the other. And it was within the power of the government, it was within the superior power of the government to have an agreement in which the church would not pay. Like they had an agreement with the Afrexim Bank that the bank would not pay. So as I said before, it matters not to me what is the amount, it is the principle that offends. It is the principle that offends the Honorable Member for St. Thomas. It is the principle that offends the Honorable Member for St. Thomas. Look at her, sir.
Yeah. You get back on track, please.
Don't let them do that to you, sir.
Not me.
Don't let them do that to you.
Not me.
Let not your hearts be troubled, nor be ye afraid. Yours is troubled. Because, as I was saying, sir, they have to leave here today. You think that these honorable members drive through Gemmett's Lane? Not one of them. They're too ashamed. They cannot drive through Gemmett's Lane and look at that property which was formerly occupied by the Ministry of Health, by the old General Hospital, where more than likely the honorable member for St. Thomas's navel string is buried. She was probably born in there. Where the Ministry of Education used to be. Honorable and noble institutions were housed on that sacred land. This government took it up and gave it away to the wealthy. To the wealthy. And that is the point being made in here. And the more they interrupt me, the more I am going to remind them of the immorality of the present transaction and the one before, and to compare them and demonstrate to the people of Barbados that this government continues to treat rich people with favor and to treat poor people with disfavor. Let their consciences bother them. Let them continue to avoid any drive through Gemmett's Lane. They are too ashamed to do it. And when they consider the full extent, the possible full extent of the transaction with a Frexham Bank, I have the freedom to say this, and if they push me, I'm going to say more than they had bargained for me to say. They are going to push me. They are going to push me, sir, to say more.
Stay focused, sir.
Calm them down. No, in fact, don't calm them. Don't calm them. Don't calm them. When he's finished, I will talk.
Quiet, please. Continue, sir.
Thank
Stay
you very much,
focused.
sir. Quiet them. But you know you can't quiet their conscience. Inside their boiling.
They ain't trying to quiet yours either, so just continue. And stay
inside they're
focused.
boiling. They are bubbling inside. And this government will never get over We're talking about sin, political sin.
We speak about the resolution.
Yes, the political sin contained in this resolution.
Right.
And by way of comparison, this government will never live down the political sin of what they did on Jamet's Lane, and today they will not live down the political sin of what they have come here to do this afternoon. Let their consciences rise up. I don't mind the noise. It shows that we are touching them, sir. You and I are touching them.
When you say you and I, sir, explain, please.
Well, you are trying to calm them. You're trying to calm them.
Just focus, sir, on the resolution.
You are presiding over this exercise.
But you're saying you and I in terms of like trying to intricate me.
I'm not trying to implicate you, sir. You're the best behaved here today.
Well,
so if I behave well and you behave well, we must be joined.
I want you to follow suit then.
Yes. Let you and I be the only persons here behaving well today, sir.
Yeah.
And every time I'm about to wrap up, jumps the honourable member for St. Thomas again. And the more she jumps up, I'll stay focused. Let us ignore her then, sir. But it is difficult to ignore a conscience that is troubled. And you know, I used to enjoy it when the honourable member for St. Thomas sat there. Of course, I enjoy it far more now that you are there, sir. But I used to enjoy her presidency of this chamber. So in wrapping up, permit me, sir, to go to the addendum so that the people know what is going on here. I've changed my mind because I don't think it is incumbent upon me to do the government's work. But maybe the people would get very angry when they hear what this document purports to do to these humble folk. The people may become angry. And there is good reason why the honourable member for St. George South did not read the details within the second schedule and the addendum. There may be good reason why the honourable member did not do that, because he too does not wish to hurt them with these truths as to this commercial relationship. What he did, in fairness, was that he gave the value of the lands occupied by the church, and I expect he will get up and do calculations as to financial benefit. But we are going to make a different point. The transaction ought not to have been characterized by finance in the first place. So that if the honourable member and his colleagues intend to rise and say, but it is not a lot of money imposed on the church. Good and reasonable people would ask him and his colleagues, but why need there have been money at all for this little tract of land in rural Barbados? Money imposed against people who did nobody any wrong, including this government. Including this government. This church that has been willing to accommodate the honourable member for St. George South in his boyhood days, and me in my boyhood days, but this is not about me nor him. This is about a principle, a larger principle, that no matter how minuscule is the financial arrangement, it ought not to have existed in the first place. What next, government? What next? Is this government going to start taxing the churches? Something that is not heard of in the Western Hemisphere? Is this government going to try to reverse this establishmentation that took place in 1969? Is this government going to become so authoritarian that its efforts to dominate every institution of this country will now more blatantly extend to the church, because this government is on an authoritarian political trajectory in which every institution in this country, including the church and the media, must now be subject to governmental dictate. That this government believes that it has the moral and political authority to determine how every institution will function, including the institution of the arts. Men and women are now afraid to write and to sing what their consciences dictate to them they shall sing. When Sunday comes, how will the people in that little church sing the Lord's song? In a financial land, a land in which government is now saying to them, when you're tithing, I want some. I want some. Why did they not ask the Frexham Bank for some? Why did they not ask a Frexham Bank for some? They're rising up again. Maybe they have an answer. And why do they want money from the little church in St. John? And they honestly felt that I would stand up in here today and be so naive as to support this resolution. I come here every week, have not missed a session as leader of the opposition. And all of my speeches are on the record. Every one of them, including today's. And this is a speech against governmental wickedness. So let this go on the record as well, that I am characterizing this resolution as governmental wickedness. When one considers, and I'm going to repeat this and I'm going to dig it into their consciences, I am going to drive, let me not use violent language, but I am going to pour the truth into their consciences and let them discover that this act today is politically sinful. This act. No conscientious Christian-minded parliamentarian will genuinely support this. And I did say conscientious and Christian-minded, with the hope that all 30 in here fit those categories. Since I am not qualified to judge anyone in terms of their Christian convictions, but I express the hope that there are those in this parliament and in this government that will quietly reject this transaction as immoral and unnecessary, except that it may be consistent with government's desire to impose authoritarian rule on this country, and that even a humble congregation in St. John must feel obligated to the government by way of the payment of small sums periodically, so that it is not about the amounts, it is about the principle. It is about a relationship that you're establishing between the church and the state. That is the sin. I say, give freedom to the church. Give the lands to the church. But you gave freedom to a Frexham Bank. You gave freedom to a Frexham Bank. And the church is not building any 5-story temple. Maybe a Frexham Bank is building a 5-story temple. Just maybe. And maybe with millions of dollars required to build that corporate temple, maybe that reflects that the original transaction to gift the land to them was wrong. It was wrong. And you know, Your Honor, the people in Barbados want it reversed. There are people who have sought legal opinions from us as to whether it can be reversed. It is as serious as that. I'm sure the government, I'm sure the members on that side have gone into their constituencies and heard those questions. And maybe that is why a lot of them are afraid to go into the constituencies. They can't deal with the questions, you know, sir. They can't deal with the questions are hard. And you know what they're doing? They're hiding behind an army of public servants at something called Ideas Forum. Please don't go to those, sir. Please don't go to those, sir. And the other one, I can't remember the name, but you brought an army of civil servants, all 10 o'clock in the night, and 5 psychopaths from the branch, and pretend that you're having some town hall meeting to discuss issues, local issues, where you should have had local government in this country, but I don't want you to accuse me of digressing. Let us get back to the main point.
Please do, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you as well.
Let us get back to the main point. That no conscientious, Christian-minded parliamentarian or citizen of Barbados will defend this transaction in which a poor and lowly church from the country has been dragged into a commercial and financial relationship with the government, while a Frexham bank has been given the freedom to build a 5-story building on free lands. Both lands are sacred. Both the lands in St. John, which sit under this church, and the lands at Gemmont's Lane are sacred. The sacredness of the Gemmont's Lane lands has been defiled by this government's decision to part with the patrimony of this country to a corporate citizen that can afford it, that ought to have paid millions of dollars into the treasury of Barbados, except that a small church in St. John is being asked to pay pennies into the treasury. Where is this government's morality? Where is this government's moral principle? Where is the compassion of which the honorable member for St. George South spoke today? He really expected that I was going to stand here and support this. I will not, I cannot, I never will. These people have done this government nothing to deserve this kind of treatment, whether it is pennies or $100 bills. They have done nothing to deserve this disadvantageous and unequal and discriminatory treatment. And it is all those things because this government has treated a wealthy entity a lot better. And the people of Barbados know it, and the people of Barbados are angry about it. They are angry about it. Ask any of the 28, I beg your pardon, sir. Ask any of the 28 of them if they have not heard inquiries from the public as to the public's feeling on that transaction at Gemmont's Lane. Y'all think the people forgot? They haven't forgotten, and the judgment promises to be harsh. It promises to be harsh. When the people come and ask for legal opinion as to reversal, that is evidence of anger. Yes, I say so in St. James North, and it is no less true today. I don't buy a vote. In the BUI election,
All right, sir.
Didn't buy one.
Let's get back on track and try to
Back
wrap
on
up.
track. Let the honorable member for St. James Central, let him act up. Let him act up. You hear?
Focus on the chair, sir. Get back on track and
Back
try
on
to
track,
wrap
sir.
up. Try to wrap up.
Yes, back on track. The consciences got them today. And so, Your Honor, I was at the point where I was about to read the schedules and the addendum, and I did say that, and I'm on to the other schedule and the other addendum, and I did empathize with the honorable member for St. George in his...
St. George South.
Beg your pardon, sir?
Member
St.
for
George
St.
South, yes. Thank you for listening, sir. I did empathize with him in his decision not to go into the details, because I suspect the details also embarrass him. This is a gentleman who has had, if I am to be personal, and I'm going to be personal in a very complimentary way, and he did hint at it. This is a young man who has been the beneficiary of that typical Barbadian boy upbringing. And having been the beneficiary of such, a son of good parents, I've met them, a son of good parents will not and cannot come in here today and give the details of this transaction. He cannot do it. It is not within him. He cannot get it done. And if he gets it done,
Mr. Deputy Speaker, your member is so misleading the chamber. During my presentation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I outlined the value of the land as per the Barbados Revenue Authority, both lands, the current Wesleyan Church, valued at $147,200, and the price at which we will sell the land, I think it's $175,200. And I'm not looking at it because I have it in memory. And we said we would net off the two values so that the Wesleyan Church will pay to the state, to the government, $28,000. I give the details. So I'm not sure where the honorable member, the opposition leader, is going with this. Please don't mislead the chamber or those who are listening. Thank you.
Point acknowledged.
when I described the honorable members having had that typical good Barbadian boyhood upbringing of good parents, I had no intention of misleading the chamber, and I'm going to insist that he had a good, decent boyhood upbringing of two decent parents, both of whom I met. And I don't want him to say to you that I'm misleading the chamber in giving that information. If he feels that it is too personal, I apologize to him.